This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
Hey everybody, it is the After Party live on this Monday. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here as we kind of try to put together this election night show on the Mark Thompson show as he leaves Las Vegas, trying to get everything situated and who will ask to come on with us. And it might be, instead of the longer form interviews that we do, it could be people just popping through for just a couple of minutes to give their take and popping on out. So, but I think it'll be good. And I think it'll be a way for us to just kind of gather with the group that we've been talking about this with all along, right? And so, I don't know. I know we use this show as a way to decompress, and we just did talk a lot of politics. But one of the things that I was really bummed that we didn't get to play more of on the Mark Thompson show is this Michelle Obama video. And I won't play it for you now, although I wish we could have played all 7 minutes of what happened. But I will put the link in the chat, because if you want to go back after this show and watch it, she talks about some pretty important points, things that maybe you don't consider when you're thinking about women's reproductive health. And she makes this appeal to the men among us, to our men in our life, right? Our husbands, our sons, our brothers, our dads, our grandpas, these men that love us, that care about us, the fathers who care about their daughters. Her words are really powerful, and it's toward the end of her speech. But if you have the time, and I know I'm preaching to the choir with this crowd, but really, really worth watching and even sharing around. So I put the link in the chat. That's the Michelle Obama video from her speech in Michigan. A really compelling argument. I mean, the whole thing is great, but definitely the latter half where she talks about women's reproductive health, just wow, wonderful. Okay, enough politics for me. We'll jump right into it because we don't have a lot of time, and I'm holding the Halloween costume exchange at the elementary school where you can bring an old costume, take one that fits, and so I have to be at the school right at pickup and facilitate that. But let's get into some of these stories. This is one that I found fascinating. There are these interesting sounds on the bottom of the sea, right off of Northern California, right off the coast of San Francisco. And scientists for a really long time were trying to figure out, what is that sound? What is it? Just south of San Francisco, right? Central California. And they were hearing this mysterious clicking sound. Couldn't figure out what it was. And part of this is because these creatures aren't necessarily known for frequenting our area. And here's what it sounded like. I have it for you. This series of clicks, really loud underwater. Yeah. What is that? What is that creature? What are they doing? Try to figure it out for a while. It was picked up by these microphones that are set at the bottom of the Monterey Bay. Here's what the mics look like. Picking up this weird sound, right? What is happening with that? Well, it turns out scientists say these are the clicks made by these sperm whales, and they're really, really loud. This noise was picked up by this hydrophone set on the sand right on one of the slopes near the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute in Moss Landing. And as you heard that, the clicks grow faster and faster. And apparently it kind of sounded like maybe some kind of machine, right? These mostly blue and fin whales pass through the area. But what you're hearing here is endangered sperm whales, and they're hunting prey in the area. And the clicks that you heard were echolocation. So there are several endangered sperm whales hunting for prey in the Monterey Bay, looking for squids, looking for sharks. And the scientists say those clicks picked up by this microphone are really exciting because this is not common in this part of the world. They said we were recording sound of a highly cryptic species, and it made us wonder, how regular is this? Were we really lucky to hear this? Or is this happening a lot more regularly than we thought? Each one of those clicks is a fraction of a second. They said it is the loudest known biological sound on Earth. That we hear the clicks, but when it's happening underwater, so loud, so loud. The research done by the scientists is published in the journal Movement Ecology last month, and they proved that these whales are swimming through the Monterey Bay more frequently than they had realized before. That it demonstrates the strong evidence for a seasonal migration with these species. The clicks, the vocalizations recorded more frequently in the late fall and the winter months, which is different than what they thought might be a summer peak of sperm whale vocalizations in the Gulf of Alaska. And they think the migrations might align with the shifts of the North Pacific Transition Zone, which forms where cooler, warmer waters meet, producing ideal conditions for prey to accumulate. So, visual sightings of these sperm whales in the Monterey Bay are still really, really rare. And despite that, they were able to detect the presence of these whales on 1,242 days over a 7-year time span, half the data collection period. So, it's more common than they thought. They were also able to identify some of these individual whales, given the spacing between each click that corresponds with the whale's body size. So they could tell, is it an adult male? Is it a female with babies? What's happening? And it's a great way for them to look more into this species. So they also said, this is kind of interesting, there's a type of click made by an adult male sperm whale that is more aligned with reproduction. And there's a sequence of sounds called codas, which are cultural identifiers that communicate which social group that whale is part of. I'm fascinated. I know we're not going to see sperm whales probably in the Monterey Bay, but wow. That's kind of a fun story to get you in the fall mood. This is from the San Francisco Chronicle, as was that last story. And it's about reportedly the largest corn maze in the country. Largest corn maze in the country. Right here in Northern California, from what we understand, it's in Dixon, right up the road off of Interstate 80? Yeah, the world record corn maze in the Bay Area. The Chronicle sent a couple reporters out there to take a look, but this is right off Interstate 80. It's called the Corn Maze at the Cool Pumpkin Patch, and it's located in Dixon. And this thing is massive. It's been pared down. Used to be 60 acres they did. Now it's 40 acres, the size of 30 football fields, according to SF Gate. And you can get lost in this thing. They say that this cool patches labyrinth tests the human psyche. So they sent a couple of reporters in and they had a good time trying to get out of this thing. Some people get so lost in this corn maze, they've called 911. They've been lost in here for several hours. This does not sound like fun to me. There's another shot of it. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get lost in this one. The Cool Patch has the world record, even though um, it's smaller. There was a 65-acre corn maze in Canada in 2022. Um, and this one is a little bit smaller now. They brought a drone to take the pictures of it from from the sky. But they even let school kids in here. So, I don't know. Takes a long time to make your way out of it. Are you a corn maze person? Do you like to get lost in these things and take your map and try to find your way out? Kind of cool what they've done here. Anyway, this is in Dixon. Yeah. So check that out. Someone brought in this little, looks like a kitten, right? Brought in this little quote kitten to a rescue area in Germany. They sent it to a wild care place because that's not a kitten. No, that's a wildcat. This looked like an orphaned and abandoned kitten. And so in it went to the shelter in Germany, but it was displaying this kind of behavior that was super aggressive. So they realized this is a European wildcat. That it was found on a country road and it was being aggressive, it was refusing to eat. So they say this is not a domestic cat. They sent it to a wildlife center and they confirmed that this is a European wildcat and it's a protected species in this area. So now it's being cared for alongside another member of its species until it's old enough to be returned to the wild. They say are doing their best to make this creature as comfortable as possible, and they are very hopeful that they will be able to return it to the wild. You can't let it become too desensitized to humans, so they have to be really careful with this one. I would have thought that was a cat too, and that's really why I put the story in, because I would have looked at that creature and thought, "That's a kitty cat." No, it isn't. That's a European wildcat. Apparently, that's different. Look at this one. This is a story that came from Lori, teacher Lori, and they say it's a bizarre animal in Oregon that looks and smells like a sock. Okay. It is almost never seen, this black and white creature, kinda looks skunk-like, right? Well, it kind of is, just a different type of species of skunk, you could say, and they're very elusive, hard to see these creatures. It's a researcher at Oregon State University that spent 2.5 years looking in forests for this creature. It's a small carnivore. It's facing threats from human-driven land use changes. The study on this creature is published in the journal Ecosphere, and this is called the Western spotted skunk. It's a lot smaller than your average skunk that we, see maybe roaming the neighborhood. And the researchers say the easiest way to describe this is a tube sock. They're mostly black. They have white spots all over them, a giant white spot on their forehead. The researchers say they're really adorable. They prefer an undisturbed habitat. Well, who doesn't? Like the mountains of the Cascade Range, which span from New Mexico to British Columbia, California to Colorado. And because it's nocturnal, it's not often seen. So, because of that, and even though it's pretty abundant in these forests, not a lot is known about them. But we do know they had a dramatic decline between 1940 and 1980. Population collapse, really. And they think it was driven by habitat loss. Now, this species is listed as vulnerable by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. It was considered for a listing under the Endangered Species Act, but I don't think that's happened yet. So the project was trying to figure out more about these creatures, learn about their history. What do they do in the forest? What do they need? How about the influence in the ecosystem that they are in? And so they did a study from 2017 to 2019 in this 16,000 acre research forest near Eugene, Oregon. They looked at these creatures with cameras, they lured them with food, all kinds of things. And then they spent time studying these creatures. And what they found is they have a surprisingly large home base area that they need to roam widely in search of the food that is kind of scarce for them. They like old growth and younger forests. The younger forests, they say, offer more food options, and they are very vulnerable to harsh winter conditions. So, kind of interesting, this study. The story comes from Discover Wildlife, and I had not seen this creature before, so I thought it would be interesting to share it with you. The Let's do this story. This this one is, I think, pretty fascinating, and it's about the robot that could be sent to school to fight absenteeism. There it is. This little robot can't come to school, just send your robot. They'll set it on your desk. It can, have a little video hole in its forehead and an audio speaker on its chest. So you can participate in class just like you were there, even if you can't come to school. Is it the same thing? I don't know. Is your child still absent if the robot comes instead? Will the school still get their daily money? Most places pay the government pays per pupil per day. So what was it, $47 a day or something like that? So if your child is absent, the school is out that money. If you send your robot, do the school still get the money? This pilot project was done, and and they sent the robot every time a kid was absent. They sent the robot in its place. It increased child attendance by as much as 21%, and it increased the number of hours that students engage with learning by 42%. So the thought is that these students would have access to lessons from a safe space, even if they have to be absent. These are AV1 robots, and they could be a strategy. They say it's a part of a more inclusive school environment to help tackle the attendance crisis rather than a one size fits all approach. Now, I could see this being really helpful. Maybe you want to keep an eye on your kid that has an asthma attack, but in between their breathing treatments, they're perfectly fine to participate in class and what's going on there. I'm not adverse to online learning. My kids did really well with that, and I even now will sign them up for some online classes in Outschool. This website called outschool.com. They have some really great classes, some extras. And so perhaps this isn't so bad, but if it's used too much, I would worry that the child isn't getting to make friendships, social connections. These are all the things we saw during the distance learning in COVID where students were at a disadvantage, learning how to deal with people, learning how to resolve conflicts, forming friendships and bonds. So if you are absent too much and your robot sits in that seat, then there might be some things that you're missing. There's a new report from I think this is in the UK, the Center for Young Lives think tank. And they found that strategies tackling student absence prior to the pandemic just aren't as effective anymore. Like, used to give you, an attendance award if you didn't miss any days of school. Well, now maybe that's not so great, because do you really want to send your kid to school with COVID? No, you don't. I don't want your kid to at my kid's school with COVID. I don't want him to bring that home. So it's just not as effective anymore. They also found that telepresence robots could help tackle engagement and attendance issues as well. The AV1 robots are made by this company called No Isolation, and they say it's an alternative program that could help. So here it is sitting next to some other students. And here it is in a group of students interacting with the robot, which I guess would be like interacting with another student that's sitting at home. The robots would sit in an absent child's seat in class, allow them to access a lesson live while in a safe space elsewhere, whether still on site at school in another room by themselves or at home. This helped increase attendance by as much as 21%. And again, increase the number of hours that students engage with learning by 42%. The robot sits in the young person's seat in class. It has this live stream of the lesson via an electronic tablet on the other end. So this is the robot in class, but on the other end, it looks like the kid is just watching the lesson on an iPad. The one size fits all, often punitive approach that previous governments took to tackle absence, they say needs to be consigned to the past, according to the Children's Commissioner in England. Threatening parents with fines for not having their kids show up isn't working for many families, and it is not reducing severe absence rates. So, this robot may be part of the answer. What do you think? I'm going to the chat. Do you think this is the answer? It sounds like a MAGA solution. I don't know. Gordon says should only be used if the kid is sick. How about Phineas says doing it in reverse and making the teacher a robot? No, no teacher robots. Maybe. I mean, I think that only works if you're all remote, right? The hole at the top is a spitball ejector. Heather says, I always hated the perfect attendance award thing. Keep your germs at home. It's so true. And maybe people in the past that thought, colds doesn't matter that much. And then the whole class gets sick, right? That's kind of thinking in the past. Once we had COVID, hopefully it's more widespread now that you realize no one else wants your germs or needs your germs. And now maybe more people understand how we can keep this stuff from spreading. So you're totally right. Never made sense, and it certainly doesn't make sense now. Phineas says, just like video killed the radio star, robots killed the teachers. I hope not. I hope not. Gordon says that should be a tool, should not be a total substitute. Yeah, I would agree. Only if the kid is sick, maybe? Yeah. It's interesting though. Technology. What if you have a major sick out and like half the class is robots? Hmm. I guess it's better than not having them be at school at all. And that's kind of what Uncle Jim says. Telepresence may be better than complete absence, but far from the equivalent to real attendance. Too much opportunity for kids to be multitasking with distractions unseen by the teacher. So true. So true. Wes says once the Elon robot comes out, it could be a teacher. Scary but true. Yikes. No. Susan says, is there a cost? Maybe I missed that info because I had to step away. I don't think they mentioned a cost. Perhaps the school just has these sitting around and the school pays, I don't know how much they would cost, a few $100 for each of them. And you're absent, they sit one in your space, they send you a link to log in, and that's it. Teacher Lori says teacher could teach from home this way. Perhaps. Teacher Lori might be back in business. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting one though. Um, let's discuss, if we could, the Lotto of the day. This is another one of those situations where this guy has won twice now. We can't even win once, and this fella, he's got it. Granted, the last time he won was 9 years ago, but still. He's a guy from Michigan, and he wins this, you can see on the check there, $148,000. Previously on Michigan Lottery, he won playing the same exact game in 2015, almost $30,000. His name is Mark. He's 66. He said he opted for the easy pick option when he bought a Club Keno the Jack at Hot Shots Tavern in Portland, Michigan. And he matched 8 of the 20 numbers in the drawing, and that gives him this $148,000 prize. He said, I was at Hot Shots Tavern with my wife playing Club Keno. I won $3 on one ticket, so I reinvested those winnings and purchased another. And I was watching the drawings and saw that all 8 of the Jack numbers were drawn. And when the jackpot reset to $10,000, I knew I'd really won. When I showed my wife the ticket and told her I just won, she was amazed. And again, second big win in this Club Keno game. He said, I'm so thrilled that I won again. Even though I've already won twice, I plan to keep playing because I believe there are more big wins in store for me. Come on now. Some people just have the luck. This is another lottery story that I wanted to share with you last week and didn't get a chance. So I'll share it with you today. And it's one of these, what is it? What weird thing is it that just clicks and makes your day lucky? In this case, this is a guy from North Carolina, and he says it's his Monday morning routine that paid off. He won $100,000. He said following his regular Monday morning routine just paid off. He's from Zebulon, North Carolina. He stopped at the Eagles Express store. He does this every Monday morning, buys his coffee and a scratch off ticket. It's just his routine. He selected a $20 Win Big ticket because it was recently released. He said, I like playing the new tickets when they come out. And he said, it sure woke me up when I won a $100,000 prize. No word on what he plans to do with it, but I like a little bit of luck on a Monday. We'll do it. This is an important note for a lot of folks who may have a pre-existing condition, may be a little bit more vulnerable. The CDC is out with a new recommendation. They say some people might actually need an extra dose of COVID vaccine. And so if you have certain health conditions that maybe make you more vulnerable to severe infections, or you're 65 or older, you may be immunocompromised as well. The CDC says 6 months after your first shot, you should consider getting a second dose of the vaccine that came out this fall. This, according to the Vaccine Advisory Panel, backed by the US Centers for Disease and Control and Prevention. So that is what they're saying. Folks with a weakened immune system have the option of getting 3 or more doses if their doctors deem it prudent. They say it allows people to make the best decision possible to keep themselves and their loved ones safe from COVID. And the CDC says they will continue to educate the public on how and when to get updated vaccinations so you can risk less severe illness and get out in the world and do more of what you love. So, if that's you, take a look at the latest CDC recommendation if you haven't heard about this, and make your best choices. Whether you're immunocompromised, whether you feel like whatever, for whatever reason, you're more vulnerable to COVID, maybe, we know that folks that are overweight or have type 2 diabetes or maybe any diabetes or, a host of other things may be a little bit more vulnerable. Folks that are older as well. And so perhaps a second dose after you get your first one at 6 months, right, might be warranted for you. But take a look at what the CDC is saying, just so you're aware of the recommendation. This is a fascinating story about the genome analysis of newborns spotting more health issues than the typical standard screening. Speaking of a interesting health story, when you're leaving the hospital with your baby right before, they do this battery of tests to see if your child has this list of illnesses, right? They're testing for a bunch of stuff before you leave the hospital. But scientists have discovered that when they did genome sequencing of newborns, it identified 120 babies with serious treatable health conditions out of about 4,000 newborns. The study published last Thursday in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And so they think that doing this DNA analysis can detect a lot more preventable or treatable health problems than just that standard newborn screening that we're doing now. The conventional screening techniques only identified 10 of those babies. The genome sequencing, 120 of those babies, right? So out of 4,000 babies, genome sequencing caught 120 different diseases in these babies, or 120 babies were identified with these serious illnesses, and the regular screening only identified 10. One of these babies had its life saved by a bone marrow transplant after a genetic screening detected a rare variant that causes that boy in the bubble syndrome, which is lethal. The standard screening missed that immune deficiency, and catching it through the DNA testing gave doctors the opportunity to protect that baby from life-threatening infections until a transplant could be performed. And the results, according to scientists, show this genome sequencing that they're doing can radically improve children's medical care. So maybe this is the way forward. But then, does the hospital have your kid's DNA for life? Where does the DNA go? So We opened some privacy questions in the name of health. One out of every 300 babies born in the United States is diagnosed with a treatable health condition uncovered by the conventional newborn screening. They use blood tests to check for specific biomarkers linked to different conditions. That this newborn screening, and I would agree with this, is one of the greatest achievements in public health. An instant equalizer of healthcare because everyone is screened, ensuring all babies have the same chance at the healthiest life. But the advent of this DNA screening, it's cheaper, it's an easier genetic analysis, and maybe it would be potentially a better option for testing newborns for potential illness. And doctors also say this, that we're in the middle of a revolution in children's medicine. There are many more pediatric conditions than they thought, and many of them have genetic causes and can be treated. So they want to expand the detection of these type of things so that they can look for more. They say it would be prohibitive to screen for all of these diseases with the standard testing. But with genomic sequencing, there's minimal extra cost when adding a condition. We can screen, they say, for treatable disorders that we never thought of screening for before. Advances, but also privacy concerns. I would say if they were going to test my child for diseases and it was health related, I'd have a hard time saying no to that. I know people, when you talk about DNA, though, get really, you know, squirrely. I do too. Teacher Lori sent me these pictures, and I've wanted to show them to you for a few days, and there's so many of them that I haven't been able to, but they're really, really, really incredible. The story comes from the National Geographic, and these are images showing the world from under a microscope. So all of these pictures were taken, where the object is magnified, and they're beautiful. Our world is beautiful under a microscope. Really incredible. Microscopic photography, they say, has the power to bring what can usually only be seen in a lab into the spotlight. It's being called the celebration of science and art. It is something that Nikon's annual Small World contest has been looking at for about 50 years now. This year's winning photo, taken by scientists Bruno Cisterna and Eric Vitriol, I know the last name, right? It's a shot of brain tumor cells in mice. So interesting. So the one you're looking at here is water fleas. That's water fleas. Here is the winning picture. That is a neuroblastoma in mice. You don't want a neuroblastoma, but it sure is an interesting picture. This is a picture of beach grass. Wow. How incredible is that? Here is an up-close shot of green crab eyes. It's fascinating. Here is the dorsal area of a cuckoo fish. So pretty. This is one of European beach grass. Wow. This is a black truffle. Here is a hibiscus flower opening. Wow. This is a two-spotted ladybug face. Maybe I don't want to see that one under the microscope. Like, no, get it off of me. It's not so cute crawling up my arm anymore. This is the nervous system of a sea star. Wow. And here is a close-up of a peacock plume. Pretty, pretty. There were 2,100 entries into the competition, the Nikon annual Small World contest from across the world. They recognized 87 of these pictures for their originality, technique, and impact. The pink and purple hues of an electrical arc soaring between a pin and a wire, a close up of the blister like bubbles of the cannabis leaf plant, all included here. So the ones you saw were the ones that uh, National Geographic thought were the coolest. But how awesome is that? Definitely worth looking at. Cool pictures. Um, can we talk about balance? Go back to health for just a moment. This is a story about aging and balance. And I knew about this test because my mom taught me. I was trying to balance on one leg in her kitchen to test my age. It's a simple test that helps gauge signs of aging in people age 50 and over. But even if you're younger than that, you still try to do it. Stand up and stand on one leg for 30 seconds. And they say if you're over 50 and you can stand on one leg for 30 seconds, you're aging gracefully, especially if it's not your strong leg. Everyone has one leg that's a little stronger than the other, perhaps. They say this test worked better than hand grip strength, knee strength, walking gait at evaluating healthy aging. The study is in the journal PLOS One. And balance is called an important measure because, in addition to muscle strength, it requires input from your vision, your vestibular system, your somatosensory systems. The changes in balance are noteworthy. If you have poor balance, obviously you're at risk of falling, whether or not you're moving. And the falls can be a severe health risk with serious consequences. So they looked at 40 healthy, independent people, 50 or over, and they had them take part in a series of movement tests. Half of the participants were younger than 65, the other half were older. It required them to balance on one leg for 30 seconds for each leg. They could hold the leg that they were not standing on if they liked, and they could keep their eyes open if they wanted to as well. The participants also stood on both feet with eyes open and closed. Standing on the non dominant leg most accurately captured the highest rate of decline with age among seniors. Grip and knee strength tests showed significant declines as people aged, but they weren't as reflective of aging as balance. The researcher said people can take steps to improve their balance, like practicing standing on one leg, focusing on muscle movements necessary to maintain that pose. They say if you don't use it, you lose it. If you use it, you maintain it. And it's easy to do. It doesn't require any special equipment. You can do it every day. I would say if you try this and you're not good at it, don't do it in the middle of a room. Do it by a wall so that you can grab onto the wall if you lose your balance and fall, right? My mom takes this balance class because she fell a couple of times and it scared her. And she started walking with more, mm, you think about every step you take. So it wasn't just natural for her to bound down some stairs. Now she walks with careful consideration as to where her feet are going, makes you think about things, that makes you move a little slower. The balance classes really, really helped. And this is one of the tests they do. So stand on, you guys doing it right now? Stand on one leg and balance for 30 seconds, one leg. Can you do it? I think you might. I think you might be able to. See if you what you guys have to say about this. Oops, I missed it. Yes, unilateral exercises. Ooh, Phineas says take Tai Chi as you get older. That will help your balance as well. Murphy says, I feel like it's cheating that I can ace the one leg test. It's not cheating. You know why, Murphy? Because they said, as they say in the study, if you don't use it, you lose it. And clearly you're using it, teaching dance and doing other things. So that's not cheating. That's you using it. So good for you. Eric's got it. He made it 30 seconds on both legs. Woohoo! Eric's celebrating over here for you. Trevor says, I've had really poor balance ever since I broke my kneecap in 7th grade, and you had to learn how to walk again after 4 months of immobility. Oh, yikes. I think it is something that you can, I think it is something you can practice though, and something you can get better at, even if, it's a little difficult for you. Eric says, I stand every day with a VR headset on, so not worried about standing with eyes open or closed. Yeah, it's that standing on one leg. It's that whole balancing thing, right? Trevor says, I always walk very deliberately. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Thank you. Sandy says, I do yoga. Some days I can balance better than other days. But again, it's about using it. It's the same thing about exercise and being sedentary, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. You start losing the ability to walk for long periods of time. If you get up and at least force yourself to move around, it's going to be much better for you in the long run. Gordon says, my dominant leg is much easier. Yeah. No, Donald, that's not how it works. He says, how about lifting both legs at once? I'd like to see you try. Maybe you could be jumping around your house. I don't know. SJ Lola says, I'm really glad I take a Pilates class. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that some of you tried it and can do it. If you aren't trying it now after the show is over, stand near a wall where you can reach out and keep yourself balanced, keep yourself upright and try it. And if it doesn't work for you, try it again. Even if you can only get 5 seconds out of yourself, maybe tomorrow you can get 7 seconds and work your way up to it. Yeah, Trevor says I have to reach out and touch things as reference points as I walk. Whatever gets you moving around the world, at least you're moving. That's what I have to say, right? Are you guys ready for Hide in Your Cave Monday? I think we have time for it before I have to go to my Halloween costume exchange. There's a couple incredible caves that I found to show you, and one of them is in China. And that means a lot of us probably will never, ever see the Reed Flute Cave. But there it is. What? Yeah, I know. I know. It's beautiful, right? This Reed Flute Cave is also known as the Palace of the Natural Arts. It's being lit up by multicolored lights in this photo, but it's still beautiful. So it's named after reeds that grow outside that are used to make flutes. The Reed Flute Cave's walls are full of inscriptions from centuries gone by, which they say shows that people have been paying attention to this place for a very long time. The interior of the cave is often lit up by these multicolored lights, and it makes it into this otherworldly theme that is just a beautiful place to visit. So again, the Reed Flute Cave in China, it is also known as the Palace of the Natural Arts. I mean, it's pretty beautiful, right? Yeah, I know. I love it. Here's another cave. I have 3 caves to show you today. And here's the next one. I don't know if we'll be able to pronounce the name of it correctly, but it's in Iceland. It's called the Threnukaggur Cave. It's a dormant volcano in Iceland, the only volcano on the planet where you can actually go inside and explore the magma chamber. Yes, you can go inside and explore the chamber that once held magma. This is half volcano, half cave, and they say all awesome. So that's in Iceland. Threnukaggur is the name of that cave. This next one I found pretty fascinating. This is in Laos. This is a cave where people go and they leave tributes often. And it's really incredible. It's called the Pak Ao Caves. And you see here this massive Buddha statues hanging out inside the Pak Ao Caves. These statues have been left over the years by believers hoping for better times. Now you see most of the time, this is just a place for tourists to stop off. So there's all the junk boats stopping off here. You have to go up. You can see there the steps into the cave to check it out. And once you're inside the cave, here's how it looks. More and more statues everywhere you look, left over the years as tributes. So pretty interesting. I have a couple other pictures here. Here's another one of the inside of the cave. I have obviously a lot of levels to this cavern, not just one cave, but a series of caves deep inside, but known for all of the statues that are left inside the cave by these people. So it's down the Mekong River. These caves have a position that overlook this river. So the boats stop nearby, the visitors climb the staircase to get in, and that's where they see all the Buddha statues inside. So again, it's become more of a touristy place than a pilgrimage site, but perhaps people still leave this many years later some of these statues. So again, this is the Pak Ao Caves in Laos. Pretty fascinating. And I had never seen this before, so maybe I thought you hadn't either. Something interesting to share with you on this. Oh, I forgot to show you the actual picture on this Hide in Your Cave Monday. So, a quick review on that. That was the, and I have to try to pronounce this again. That was the Reed Flute Cave in China. That was the Thrinnukagigur in Iceland, and the Pak Ao in Laos. And there we go. And that's Hide in Your Cave Monday. So there's an excuse to hide in your cave all day today if you need to. As the election comes closer, I'm feeling like hiding more and more away. It's funny, and I know we don't usually talk about politics, but I have this mom's group that someone retitled this chat, the women for Petaluma Women for Harris. And one of the moms messaged today and said, I'm trying to get off this polar coaster. I hadn't heard anybody say that before. Are you the person that looks up the poles every day? Are you on a polar coaster? Yeah. I'll be hiding in my cave on Monday. That's where I am. Hide in Your Cave Monday. A huge, huge thank you to Luis, who's coming in. Thank you for teaching us something new and interesting each and every day. And mahalo. Mahalo, thank you to you. Still my favorite McAllister. Thank you very much. That is so appreciated that I am your favorite McAllister. Quickly searching because I saw a notification pop up. I think that Wes has popped in with another $5 PayPal as well. So huge, huge thank you. That is the PayPal information is in the show description, and it's also in the About tab here on YouTube with a live link. So thank you to all the ways you contribute to the show. Thank you to Teacher Lori for contributing so many stories today. Thank you to Luis for the $4 super sticker. So appreciate it. This show can't continue without that. So that's really, really nice. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Make it a really good rest of your Monday. And I will see you tomorrow on the Mark Thompson Show. 11 a.m. is the start time, and it's a David K. Johnston day. So it's going to be really good. And possibly Jefferson Graham on the show. Not sure about that, but I will double check on it. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.